name is Taylor Self, and I program Sentinel training. I don't delegate. I don't farm it out. I write the workouts. I do the workouts. I use my 7 years of experience coaching in an affiliate, along with my deep and ever-growing understanding of the methodology, to put together an always challenging and rewarding, often humbling program to make you better. I want to help people and nothing else. Help people move better, train better, compete better, live better. Legacy comes later. Live now. Live better. Train Sentinel.
Welcome to Coffee Pods and Wads. Carolyn Lambray, how are you?
Oh, good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm fine. I was just like, before we started, I was just complaining about being sick. But overall, I'm fine. I'm trying to find, so I don't know how to find a link for this because it's not letting me log into I'm doing a survey, Caroline, I can do it like this, for the end of the year. Oh, bollocks, I can't do it like that. Oh, anyway, I'm doing a survey for the end of the year. So I've asked people who is like the best male athlete, best female athlete, best coach, best camp, best, what else? Podcast, YouTube channel, video. I'll see if I can bring up the survey here.
Oh, wow.
How would I do this now? If I do present, share screen. Here we go. So got like best female athlete, best male athlete, best program, best podcast, best YouTube. These initially I had like, you have to answer the question, and then someone messaged me and were like, you can't do the survey if you don't answer those questions, and not everybody's going to want to answer those questions. So I was like, okay, so I took it out. So like, you don't have to answer all the questions that don't have an asterisk. I figured multiple choice is fine, but someone made the point of like, not everybody is into this as you are. So if you're putting in like best YouTube video, most people are going to be like, I don't care. It's best podcast episode, best broadcast, and best coach. The reason that there's 10 questions is because you had to pay to have more than 10 questions. So I limited it to 10. But then what I didn't realize, and this is how they fucking get you, I didn't realize that if you want to collate more than 100 responses, you have to pay anyway.
I just do a Google survey, like a Google form, and it's free.
Well, listen, Caroline, maybe I should have done that. But my brain immediately went to SurveyMonkey from my college days.
In love with Google Forms. I'm like, this is perfect. Like Wonderland all the time. Like, I want your opinion. Google Form.
I probably should have done that, to be honest. I wonder, would I be able to put this into the chat? Sorry, no, this isn't very exciting. So if you're watching the show, you can maybe...
It's great. If you're listening, then you're...
Yeah.
Missing
you can maybe go and do that. So we're going to do a show. Myself, Brian Spin, Chase, and Bill are going to do an end of year show, and we're all going to pick our best of those things also, and then we'll say what the listeners or viewers or whatever. It was funny because I did it first on my own channel, and then I was like, hang on, this is skewed. Like I was like, I'm winning best podcast and I shouldn't be. So and it's only because I'm only speaking to my own audience. So I asked like Hiller and Spin, I was like, can you guys share this? Because it's not, it's clearly not accurate, because I know I'm not and I shouldn't be.
You said it has to be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be fair.
Yeah. So like, it's like, how much of a needle mover is Hiller? He posted it on his story, and within 30 minutes I had like 350 extra people had taken surveys. Like crazy. I plummeted pretty quickly down the chart of my own vote. Do you put much stock into that kind of stuff, like how people view you or how people view Jeff, and how, like, you know, like the markers of success and stuff for you guys? Like obviously it's kind of different this year because you removed yourself from the games and stuff. Like when those conversations are happening, one of the kind of common conversations now is would Jeff have won the games? And is James Braid the fittest on earth? And that's kind of a common rhetoric that's going around. How do you view that kind of stuff? Was that when you removed yourself from the games, you just like, right, whatever happens now, our decision has been made, so we've made our peace with it and we just move on? Or was there a part of you afterwards that kind of wanted to be involved in those conversations almost?
I always preface this with like, I can't speak for Jeff. So like, once we made the decision, like obviously the decision was his, but like, you know, we talked it over and stuff. Like, yeah, once he was removed from the games, like we have nothing. We're not going to say, oh, we could have won. Like coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, no, if we wanted to prove ourselves, then, you know, he would have competed. Obviously, just like I think any Rogue Wadapalooza, so like any competition, like Dubai, we can look at the programming at Dubai and be like, would Jeff do well on this? Which events, like theoretically speaking, like which events would he not do well? Okay, well, if we don't think he's going to do well, then that could be like an area of improvement for us. So like you can play that theoretical game, but that's why we play sports. Doesn't matter if you're like the odds are 10 against 1, like there's still a chance so you could win. So like, no, you have to go through it. And in that moment, like the leaderboard is the leaderboard with, you know, all the context and the environment that of everything that happened. So we didn't dwell on that. Like, obviously we still looked at the events and stuff, but like once the games are over, like they're over. We don't want to live in the past.
Did you guys leave? Like, did you, after when you decided not to do it, did you just go or did you hang around?
No, we stayed. We left on Monday. Took a flight on Monday. We had no return ticket because we were planning on going on vacation after that. So we were like, depending on what happens, like we'll see where we want to go in the world, kind of like take the Monday and whatever. So no, like, yeah, we weren't going to like leave on the Saturday or the Sunday. There were also like, they had the tribute the Friday, but we also heard that there would be something else on Sunday. So we're like, okay, well, we don't want to just like, he didn't compete because he like just wanted to be out or whatever. It was just like, that was the best decision for us with all the facts that we knew at the time. And, but like things evolved over the weekend and things like that. So we're like, well, we don't know what the ceremony, like what they're going to do. And again, he chose to sit out on what they decided to do, but we stayed no matter what.
Was it purely based on Lazar and everything that happened? Like, was there any part of him that was like, oh, I'm not firing at 100%, and with everything that's happening and that fact, I'm just gonna not compete? Like, was it a purely moral thing, or was there other factors playing a part as well?
I don't like, yes, moral in the sense of like, did we agree with how things were handled? But it wasn't, and I think it showed like people spent their time how they thought it would be best for those, you know, 24, 48, 72 hours of the weekend. It wasn't trying to like take a stance against CrossFit or anything like that in that moral sense. It was like, what decision and what values are we kind of like putting forward with the decision of continuing or not continuing? Like, what is going to be best for his mental health? Is it to compete or not compete? What is going to be best for his career long term? Like, is it to compete in this emotional state? And like, you can like, I still look and read at other athletes who have competed like since the games. It's like Italian Throwdown, or I can't remember what it's called, or Dubai, or this or that. And it's like, oh, like when athletes are stepping back on the floor, of those who have competed at the games, you can like, they say it like, oh, I wasn't sure how I was going to react. Like I got caught up in the emotions. Like if there's still something there. So it's like, those are the things that we were thinking about when we're making our decision. Like, what is going to be the best? Because like, if you get traumatized from competing that weekend, like we're fucked for the next 5 years. Like, so, you know, there is a lot of factors that went into that, but it was mostly like, what is best for us, like in the moment, and what is best for us long term in terms of like, should we compete or not compete?
How long have you two been together?
It'll be 10 years next spring.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
And did you start off as a couple and then coach an athlete, or vice versa?
Yeah, we started off as a couple, which I think I coached at the box that I got hired at the box where he was already training. So like, that's how we met, but we started dating, enjoyed CrossFit as like an activity for both of us. And then just kind of like with it, eventually it was like, oh, like I always enjoyed programming. I saw you had potential. I was like, oh, like, do you want me to program for you like extra stuff and see how it goes and like all of that? And then like with the years, with time, made it like more and more serious.
How long ago did you start coaching him?
I would say like 20, 16, 17 type of thing. Cause we started dating in 2015. So I would say like that first year, 15 to 16, like it was just like, we were still doing it like just for fun and stuff. 16, did the open, kind of enjoyed it. We went to the games to volunteer and things like that. And it was like I could see his potential. It's like, but are you going to enjoy competing? Like, are you going to enjoy this environment? Like, we very much treated this as like, is this the career choice for you? And so that's one of the reasons why like we volunteered and like we're part of like all of that. And then I would say like 17 is where like it got a little bit more serious, because then it was like, can we make it to regionals? Because in 17 he didn't make it, but he was really close.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, like you've been steadily progressing 16 to 17, and then 17 is like, well, can we make it to regionals? And if we can, and it's like, okay, well, we have this like trajectory of improvement. It's like, could we make the next step of like the games? Not necessarily the next year, but like, you know, can we keep improving? Where is this going? So that's kind of like how it started.
Was there a point like where has there ever been a time, because I know like say Hinshaw helps now, and there's there's like a kind of a
not the only one, yeah
yeah, kind of like a support group around him, I guess, and around you both, like helping things. But like, was there a point, say maybe when he missed out in 2017, or maybe like any other time along the way, where one or both of you thought, oh, maybe it shouldn't be me? Like maybe it's like, do you ever have those doubts when you're coaching him and thinking like, shit, like maybe you should be going to a camp or going to someone who has done this before?
I don't think we ever had doubts, but we definitely had those discussions, because like I never, like it became a dream of ours, but I also wanted it to be his kind of thing. Like if I wasn't going to be the right coach, or if I wasn't able to make him progress, or, like get the help that I needed, then I would have, stepped out, and but we had those discussions like after the open or after regionals or after the games and things like that. And it was like, is this still the best thing for us to keep working together, or would you get more out of, working with someone else? And it was like, well, as long as like I keep leveling up, then he's going to benefit from it. So it was always kind of like that type of like tag teamwork.
It's pretty crazy. Like when you look at his results, say, I'll just see if I can bring it up here. Apart from, so 2020, that was like kind of weird. Yeah, that was a weird games. 2019 was kind of weird as well, I suppose.
He has done like every weird games, like, and you see it in the comments. Everybody's like, we wish it was 2016, like that 2014, 2018 era of like stability. Yeah, we missed out on those days.
But even like say semifinals, second, first. Like fifth and then first most recently.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty crazy. Like, was there a point, I know you're saying that like, oh, you had these markers for improvement and these aims that you wanted and stuff, but was there a time where it became not a dream, like where it became like, okay, this is actually feasible, like we could actually win it, or we could actually go, like, was before it happened, was that a genuine goal, or was it more like a, well, if everything goes perfectly, who knows?
I think I always believed that he could, or I always wanted to prove that the CrossFit methodology could produce a champion. And I think that pushed me to be like the best coach, best programmer, like make sure that I had the answers that he was improving, because I wholeheartedly believe, like I wanted to prove that as a hypothesis. Like I took it on. I was like, we're training 3-1, we're doing zone, we're doing everything the way CrossFit says. And I was like, I'm going to push this to the max. And like, we managed to prove it. And I'm like, well, the next iteration of that is like, you should just stay the fittest, right? Like if you keep improving and you keep doing what you do through time, then we should be able to maintain. So like that from the get-go, like I think I had a little bit of a dream of like, yes, this is possible, believing it. Obviously, like you need to prove it. And that was more where the markers were important in terms of like, are we on the right track? Because like, yeah, if we needed to change the plan, I would have changed the plan, but the markers kept telling us that we were going in the right direction.
Do people question you guys doing that? Like say Hinshaw and those kind of people who are like, wouldn't do things that way, and who have seen other people win by not doing things that way? Has there been like much pushback of people saying, hey, you might want to rethink the whole zone thing, or hey, you might want to do things a bit differently, and you know, it's hard to win when you do it that way? Like, have you had much pushback on it?
Not really. And like, that's the thing, things have worked. And I've consulted like nutritionists. I'm like, hey, this is like for the 24 season, I reached out to someone, you know, like actual like studies that and like knows it and all that. And I was like, this is what we're doing. Like, do you think we should change anything or recommend anything? Or like, what should I be looking at in terms of like XYZ? And she was like, well, are you guys like, is anything wrong? Like, why would you want to change anything? I'm like, no, but like, what if I'm missing a piece of information or overlooking something? And she's like, well, clearly you've gotten good results. Like, if it's not broken, like, don't fix it. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm getting that. And again, like, if at some point it's like, yeah, he's not performing as well, then we will look at all those metrics. And it's like, do we need to fix his nutrition, his recovery, his, like all of those things, his training? I think for the training side, and it's interesting because, I forget what his real name is, but Sibam that wins the bodybuilding. Yeah. He trains 3-1 apparently because Jeff follows him. He's like, he's on a 3-1 thing. So I think at first people kind of questioned, but like by the time Hinshaw joined our team, it's like we'd been doing 3-1 for years and it had been working and we've been improving. And like, you know, he podiumed at Rogue and it's like, okay, well, why would I force you to do something if like prove me wrong more? Like, let's try it your way. And if it doesn't work, then like, we'll try it like his way, but our way like works for Jeff. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but like for us, it works.
You coach, is it Benoit as well?
Yeah.
Does he do the same as Jeff then? Does he do 3-1 zone, all that stuff, or does he do zone like differently?
So he's actually getting his PhD in nutrition, which is very interesting. So when we like way back when we started working together, I was like, these are my non-negotiable. Like, you have to do 3-1. I'm going to program CrossFit style. Like, that's what I like. That's what I want to do. So like, be sure that's when you want to be on. But the nutrition side was like much harder to get him to buy into because like, well, he literally knows way more than I do about all of that. Like, he studies it, like he's PhD level and all of that. So I'm like, okay, cool. But like, also we've been competing and like, we know what, like not me, Jeff knows what it's like to compete for 4 days at the games and get crushed. So like, yeah, you might want to do like a carb load and this and this and that, whatever, which works in endurance sports, but it's like, do you really understand? And have you really gone through those weekends and stuff? And so after semis this year, 2024, it had been like 2 years, the 2 last semis that he had done, that he was like, oh, I'm missing energy like on the 3rd day. And I'm like, okay, do you want to try zone? Like, do you want to try something else? Because like, clearly you've like, I'll respect what you want to do. And like, you've been doing it your way. Like, do you want to, so he's adapted it a little bit and like changed some of his nutrition. And obviously like he has his own values and like how he wants to do things, but he has moved more towards zone and like feeling good, performing well. So I'm like, okay, like, you have to make it work for you, but I think that it does work for CrossFit.
Does Jeff do zone even like during the games then?
Yeah. I mean,
wow. He has to be like the only one.
Yes and no, because like, I think there is a portion of like, you need to eat and like, you need to get the calories in, you need to like get some quality in and all of that. But zone is very simple. Basically, like, are you eating all 3 macros like when you're eating? The answer is yes. Like, the proportions might be off, but like, he's not sitting down and eating like just pasta, like only carbs, right? Like, he's gonna have some carbs, he's gonna have some protein, he's gonna have some fats. Well, you just
wouldn't be eating
a zone meal,
like a Snickers and Gatorade.
Yeah, like no. But I mean, at some like, yeah, he might just get a Snickers after a workout, but like, no, when he sits down to have a meal, like we try to make sure that it's as balanced as he can tolerate it. Cause like, depending on how he's feeling, the events, like stomach, this and that, like you're going to have different cravings, but zone to me, and that's how I teach it. Like, number one principle is, are you eating all 3 macros when you're eating? And most people will do that for one meal or one snack. They won't do it consistently throughout everything that they consume throughout the day. And that's basically like the difference, is like, we always make sure we're eating all 3 macros.
Yeah. When you started working at Wonderland, is it Wonderland you started working at?
That's our gym.
You own it now, right?
We own it. No, we started it.
Oh, so you were working in a different gym. You got a job in a different gym that Jeff was training at, and then left and started one. Okay, right. Okay, I follow. I thought you bought out Wonderland. Okay. What was the gym that you were working at initially?
So by the time I got to where Jeff was, it was CrossFit Saint-Hubert, which is on the South Shore of Montreal.
And you were what, level 1 and like just starting out, or had you been working?
No, so I got my level 1 December 2012 and got my level 2 January 2013.
Jeez, okay.
Because by the time that I did the level 1, I was like, I drank the Kool-Aid, I was like fully in. But where I learned CrossFit was like in a regular gym that was offering a CrossFit style class. So like it was the little like pump bars and like we were loading them so much that they would bend. So like there's no pull-ups. There's like I was training in front of a mirror like that. That was like in the cardio like step class. So I took the level 1. So like finally like did pull-ups and all of that. So I wasn't coming from a community. So like who's gonna like which gym is going to hire me that doesn't know me, nothing of that. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go do my level 2 right away. And at least I'll have a leg up on people that only have their level 1. So back then it was called Coaches Prep in 2013. And so I did the Coaches Prep like really early. And it really helped me because like, especially back then, from the get-go, like I knew how to coach because the level 1 is all about the methodology and getting the knowledge, but the level 2 is about the coaching. Yeah. So like I got all of that information very, very quickly and started applying it as soon as I started coaching. So I coached at other gyms before and then went to Saint-Hubert.
Had you done anything before that? Like what age were you then?
30, 31.
What had you been doing, like say for work before you started coaching and stuff? Because like I imagine it's hard. Like I'm doing my level 2 in I should know this, February or March, one or the other. And I remember talking to people about it and saying, oh, should I coach and then do it? Or should
and they recommend
not
that you do coach.
Yeah. And then not have bad habits and then do it. And then one of the guys, like one of my friends, like, well, you're a teacher, so you won't have an issue being corrected in front of people or talking in front of people. So he's like, that's usually the worst part. So if you can get over that, you should be fine. So had you done something prior to coaching, or were you working in that kind of global gym before that, or what were you doing?
No. So like when I was studying for my BEd, so I have my Bachelor's of Education, I was working in a hotel downtown. So like when I graduated, I kept that job, got a teaching job, like moved around, started doing like a little bit of personal training because like I did sports growing up and things like that. So I was always like the reference for my friends if you like wanted to lose 5 pounds or wanted to get in shape, like do lunges and squats. So I got eventually like just a PT certification from like the Y, like nothing major, just to say that I had something and like had a couple clients here and there. But when like I did 1.5 years of that CrossFit class and then got my level 1. And so I still like, I was probably working at the hotel or probably had a teaching job. Like, I don't remember 12 years ago what I was doing.
What, was it elementary school or high school or what?
No, in Quebec, I did high school. I did a few high schools. Okay. And then I also taught in Japan, like English for 1 year. And that was like elementary and like middle school, I guess. That was super fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like that's why like I had that, like the hotel job was a very steady job that like, because I had been there for so long with the collective agreement, I was like, I can take a sabbatical and like go to Japan for 1 year and come back and have 40-hour week. Like I was able to do those things. So like once I discovered CrossFit, I was like, okay, cool. Well, I can go work in a gym, but still have that on the back end to be able to like pay bills and like whatever as I was like progressing. So I was really lucky to have that. Like that hotel job was like a fallback for years.
What were you doing? What was your role in the hotel?
I worked in the pool and gym area. So basically like, what's your room number? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Would you like a towel?
There it is. Yeah. Do you want a towel? Like the locker rooms are over there. Like it was just like a greeter, like in the gym, which was great because like got to meet a bunch of people and was like super easy and like super fun. Yeah.
So the first time, can you remember the first class that you coached then? Like first actual affiliate class?
No. I know it was at CrossFit Montreal, one of the first 50 boxes in the world. So there's like 24, 25 people. Like, that's all I remember. Like, I can't say like, oh, we coach back squat. Like, I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy when you think about like if you had said to that version of Caroline Lambray, hey, in like, you know, under 10 years, you're going to coach the fittest man on earth. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Or own an affiliate or like any of
yeah.
that. Like my mission when I got my level 1 was to like get on seminar staff.
That's
So
cool.
that journey.
Have you ever applied? Have you ever done it or applied? Or
Oh yeah, failed twice. Yep.
What did you fail on? How do you fail? Do you give a class or what?
You just don't pass. The first, so there's like three internships. Like one where you like observe a little bit more. The second one you teach some or like all of a movement series, and then the last one you're supposed to like coach all like the 3 movement series that you have throughout the weekend, just interact with everybody and all of that. The first one, by the third one is like where you get your answer, and that one did not go well at all. I was like, I would not recommend myself. Like, I'm perfectly fine with this. And I was like, cool, I'll go back, like keep working on it. And then the second one, like to me went like really, really well, like hit everything. Like I was surprised. And then like, yeah, just did not get recommended. I was like, okay.
Was that in Canada you did that then?
No, the first one I went to Boston at the Reebok Boston thing. And then the second one was somewhere in Brooklyn. I can't remember the gym, but like it was somewhere in New York-ish.
Would you do it again or no?
The internship?
Yeah, would you try and go for it again?
Well, so when I got my level 4, they like you get like I got an invite of like, oh, would you like to be part of the staff?
Like, well.
Yeah. So, and it was like, so I asked them, I was like, do I need to go through the internship process? Because you pay for everything.
Yeah.
So like out of the 3, I was lucky because I did it twice, but out of the 3, the first one, like I managed to do in Montreal, and then the other 2 you have to travel to. So, you know, went to Ottawa, went to Florida, I went to places also like either were close or like Jeff has family in Florida. So like diminish some of the costs and things like that. But like you pay for all of it. And so 2023 win the CrossFit Games, pass my level 4, and then get asked if I want to be on staff and do the internship. I was like, yes, but no, like, have I not proven myself enough? Like, what's the pay scale? Like, I just asked questions like, what does that entail and things like that. And like, I mean, I would love to be on seminar staff, but there are also things I'm like, everybody knows me by now. Like I volunteered for like a decade. I've done all these things. I've interacted with plenty of people who are on the staff. I'm like, internship for what? Like, what part of my personality are you not sure you're going to work well with me? Like, so there's a little bit of that like irks me a little bit. It's like, it's fine. You need a process. Like I train people at the gym. Like I totally get it, but it's just like, well, what do you need? Because if I haven't proven it by now, then I don't know what else I'm going to prove during this process of training.
So the level 3 is that you
there's the exam.
The level 4 is videoing yourself, is it?
The level 4 is in person.
Okay.
It's in person. So you either go
you go to a different gym, isn't it? That you've never met before or something. Yeah, okay.
So you can have it at your gym. So we flew them in because we had people from the region, like Ottawa, Montreal, in the province that like wanted to do their level 4. So it, like financially, it made more sense to like fly the evaluators in and have it here, versus like all of us kind of flying everywhere to like go get it.
Okay, so it wasn't just you doing it, or it was?
No, so there's 4 of us that did it.
Okay. All from Wonderland?
No.
Oh, okay. Jeez, I was like, that has to be the highest qualified gym.
No. Other gyms, other people, yeah.
And what happens there? So because I thought it had to be like a group of people you've never met before or something, like the members, you know, that it was like
no, because
strangers.
I mean, I love my Wonderlanders, but like nobody moves perfectly. So like, it doesn't matter. And a fault is a fault. So like in that regards, like even when they explained it, because I remember when they launched it, like I listened to the whole like spiel about it, how it's going to function and stuff. And like people were asking, it's like, well, do you have to go? And they're like, I mean, and this is where like, what makes more sense for people to fly in the evaluators or not? Because that's more like a financial aspect. But in the sense of like, you have to prove that you can see faults, correct fault, create meaningful change, like all these things. So it doesn't matter who you're doing it with.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to listen. They're not going to listen.
That's fair.
If you're not creating meaningful change, you're just not creating meaningful change. It doesn't matter who you're coaching. And
then the level 2 is like pass or fail. Well, it's basically pass, isn't it now? And it's like you know, it's participation. Like you do the weekend, basically, you actively participate, whatever. And then what kind of questions they ask you on the level? I mean, don't tell me any questions because you probably get in trouble, but like what sort of stuff do they ask you on the level 3? Is it really deep theoretical stuff then?
I mean, I did mine like a while back, so 2018, 17 or 18. It's been a while. But basically like all the study material that you have, there's a lot, like you have to know all of it. Because there are like coaching question, nutrition questions, like methodology questions, like all of it. So,
and that's, you go to a center or something and do it, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to go to an official testing center. So like luckily we had one in Montreal. I was doing it. Yeah. People were like passing the New York bar while I was like taking my level 3. Like it was like the weird.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. How many level 4s are there? Like how many people have it? Is it a lot? It can't be that many.
So there's people who have been grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So like if you know this person, like especially some of the seminar staff, because they've been around for so long. So like I know there's that. Of the new people with this type of exam, I don't think there's more than 30 in the world, 50.
That's cool.
Like there's not that many. And I'm not sure. Like I haven't been back on the website. Pardon?
None of them have coached the fittest on earth. None of the 30.
And I don't know if they're still doing them. Because I haven't been back on the website. Like I don't know how, like in the sense of like if there's only one exam per month versus like one every weekend, you're also not going to evaluate as many, graduate as many. So I'm not sure where they are in that regards. Because I know when I was taking it like that first year, because there's a bunch of level 3s. Like I had to renew my level 3 because the level 4 wasn't out. So like there's a bunch of people that have their level 3s, and it's like once they open the level 4, a lot of people rush to it because it's like I don't want to, like I didn't want to renew my level 3 for like a third time. Like that made no sense. So I was like, I'm just gonna go for my level 4. But
do you need to redo the exam every time you renew your level 3?
No, you just have to like you need your continuing education credits, which I will need for my level 4 as well. But then I want to apply them for my level 4 because you're spending money to get those credits. I was like, well.
And is there anything above a level 4? Is it like a gold level or a diamond?
I don't know. Seminar staff? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's the highest level that you can get in CrossFit, I think.
Yeah. Or founder. It's probably higher than seminar staff. Yeah, it's crazy. If there, like, have you always been driven like that? Like, have you always been driven to, like, say when you were, I understand why you did the level 2, but then was the level 3 because it was there and because it was like, do you view those things as a challenge? Like to, if there's I need to do the level 3 because there is a level 3. I need to do the level 4 because there is a level 4.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in the sense that like, I wanted to be the best coach. So like the more like evals or the more I can prove myself, like theoretically in like that space, then like great. Because I wanted to be on the seminar staff, they're like, oh, well, you need to have your level 3 to apply. Or you need to, so like things would change. Cause like I said, I've wanted to be on the staff since 2013. And so, you know, got my level 1. I was like, please let me know how I can be on staff. And they're like, well, go coach for like 2 years, right? Like that's like brand new, just like go coach. And like, you know, you need your level 2 like at the time, because there's no level 3 in 2013. So I was like, cool, go coach for like 2 years, right back, like, you know, 2 years in one day. I'm like, send. And they're like, oh, you need your level 3. I was like, God damn it. Perfect. Let me go study for the level 3, right back. And like, so there was a little bit of that of like, just like things were changing and evolving. So like it pushed me, but at the same time, like I would have wanted to do it anyway. Because like, yeah, that's like, I want it.
Yeah. Would you do, if there was another one, would you do the next one then? If there was like a 5, would you do the 5 and so on?
Good question. I guess it would depend
On what it entails, like, or what the value is, I suppose.
what the value is, and like whether you pass or fail the level 2, the level 3, the level 4, you're going to learn things along the way. Like it made, like studying for level 3 made me a better coach. Like studying and practicing for the level 4 made me a better coach. Now, whether I have that piece of paper or not, I've improved. So like if they do eventually come up with like something else, I know that having that date, that exam, that something will kind of force me in the process, but I know the value is in the process. It's not in the paper. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess it would depend what it would be.
Have you ever like, when was CrossFit Wonderland? When did you start that?
February 2017.
Okay. And have you always been, because it seems like, I know you said that you drank the Kool-Aid when you did your level 1. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But you seem to have like been taking it intravenously since then, like, you know, topping up since then. Like most people kind of go like, oh, fucking CrossFit. And then like they kind of run out of steam a little bit, but you kind of immediately did your level 2 and so on.
Yeah.
Like, has there been periods, so say like there in 2020 or say after the games this year, has there been periods where you've been like, or when they're up to affiliate fees and that kind of stuff, has there been periods where you've been like, you know what, fuck CrossFit, like it's actually not, like it's not worth what I'm doing here, like I can just have Wonderland Fitness or whatever?
Yeah. Yes and no. And I think that, you know, every hard times brings hard questions, and it's like you have to kind of answer those for yourself. Like for the affiliate fees, like, is it worth it? Yes or no? I mean, like, I know I believe in the CrossFit methodology. Now, does it suck that the affiliate fees are going up? Yes. Do I use as much of the information and everything that they're providing now versus like back then? No, I probably could. I probably should spend more time there because they are providing it. When I signed up as an affiliate, I was very okay with the fact that I was just like paying for the word. Like that, I was fine. But we've always had, or that's how I kind of view it, as like, there's people that wanted that and there's also people that need more help. And so how do you balance that as the company of like, well, if we give the help to the people who need them, then we're not hurting everybody else. But if we don't, then we are hurting a segment of the affiliates and we can't help as many people through the CrossFit methodology. So like, I understand that. So am I going to rebel and like, oh, I don't want to pay the affiliate fees? And then same thing, like the games to me are the games. And like, this is where I think we have, I want to say like an identity issue within the community, but it's like, we've tried to make this game season work for everyone. And we've never asked the question, like, who should it really be for? Because the CrossFit Games athlete are treating this as a career. We chose this, like when we were training, like back in 2018, try to make it to regionals. It was like, can we actually make a living out of this? And if that is who you want to serve, then there are things that we are going to have to do differently and better. That doesn't mean that everybody cannot participate. I've done Ironmans. I'm not winning Kona, right? Like that's not my expectation. People can still participate in the open, but the open can be organized so that the people who are trying to make a living out of this don't get the short end of the stick. And I don't think that, like, I read comments on Instagram. It's like, oh, what have the CrossFit Games athlete done for the affiliates and blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, that's why the open, like it has to be more affiliate friendly and stuff. And it's like, okay, but as an affiliate, what have you done for the CrossFit Games athlete? Like, shouldn't it be like a two-way street? Like if you're asking for things like, well, what have you given? So like, I'm an affiliate owner. Like I don't expect Jeff to do anything for my affiliate as a games athlete. No, like you're doing this for us on a personal level. It has nothing to do with Wonderland. Like, cool. Since he won, we've gotten more drop-ins. Awesome. But like, yeah, it does, like, apart from that, it doesn't change anything. So that's where, like, again, like, what's my stance? Like, oh, I'm not going to have the open at my gym when everybody's super excited because, like, it's been 8 years that we make it like a party and like we do things and like the whole community gets together. And it's like, now because of what happened this summer, like we're not going to do the open. Like the open for the people at my gym is like their time to test their fitness, be with their friends. Like it has nothing to do with Jeff and what he lived at the games. So like being able to kind of separate those things, it's like, well, what does the open mean to you? Do you want to do the open? Do you want to pay to be on the open leaderboard? Do you want to pay me as an affiliate? Like there's a myriad of like ways of doing things, and it doesn't have to be all black and white, but there's questions that I feel that like would help everybody if we like took the time to answer them.
What questions?
Well, like who is the game season for?
Who do you think it should be for?
It's not up to me to decide. Like it's
not.
Like
in Caroline Lambray's world, like who do you think it should be for?
Well, if we want this to be a professional sport, then we need to consider the people who are making this a profession. Like, and I don't know a lot about a lot of sports. Started watching F1 because of the Netflix series like 5 years ago. Cool. Started watching hockey because like Jeff is back into hockey and like it's been 2 years we're watching hockey. We were watching the hockey game this weekend, and they're like, oh, there's going to be a freeze on trades. I'm like, oh, what? What is this freeze on trade? And so we looked into it. And it's like, oh, during the holidays for the hockey players, they're not allowed to get traded. Why? Because it'd be fucking awful to get traded on like December 24th and know that you have to like move your whole family and whatever. So because that's better for them as professionals, right? So it's things like that of like, well, if we want this to be a professional sport, what can we do better for the professional athletes? Hockey's been around for 100 years. CrossFit has not. I don't have the same expectations, but if we say we want this to be a professional sport, then let's look at giving the professional athletes the best experience possible, and everybody else can just come and play. I can still do the open. Like I did the Rogue qualifier, the Rogue Invitational qualifier, the Q. I don't know if you followed. The women's weight, for whatever reason, were just like higher. Instead of like 225, 155, it was 225, 175. I was like, I never wanted this weight. I got crushed. But I'm like, still signed up, like did horrible. I'm not going to Rogue. Like that's not, but I can still sign up and participate. Right. And it's like, no matter like, and you can decide whatever you want to do, like for that qualifier, and you can decide to register or not. Like I did, I saw the weights. I was like, yay, like little tear, but that's okay. I'm still going to register. So it's things like that. Like, I'm not saying people should register for the open or not, or whatever, but it's like, we can still make it more professional, more streamlined, have standards without taking anything away from CrossFit and all the unknown and unknowable. And like all these things, like, no, if we want a sport, we have penalties, we have rules, we have a rule book, things are consistent. Like that's what makes it fun. Nobody wants to play a game where you change. Like, have you ever played a game with a 4-year-old? Just like invents a rule as they go. Like you have kids. Like
daily.
No fun. Like it's no fun to play a game when you don't know the rules. So it's like, can we get some consistency on some of these things?
I guess then it comes like, where do you draw the line? As in, so if you have professional athletes, like the argument could be made of how many professional athletes actually exist in CrossFit. As in,
of course.
So like a professional athlete.
But we also started a hockey league with like 6 teams. Like you have to start somewhere. So like, was it less professional back then? Yes and no. I mean, it was as professional as it needed to be for 6 teams. And then it grew to accommodate more. And like, I keep referencing hockey because that's my reference point right now. But like, I don't know, how was golf 150 years ago? How was tennis 70 years ago? Like how are all these things like,
but are those athletes not paid by the sport? As in, like, are they not paid by like
team sports and individual sports are very different. So like that's the thing too, is like I don't think you can compare CrossFit to hockey. You have to compare it to like tennis. Individual, because you're not getting paid by a team. You're not like, that's not how it works.
Like because I guess my thing is like, if you're, to my mind, if you're, I guess just it's what's your definition of professional? So it's like you can treat something as a professional, but maybe not necessarily be a professional. So I'm sure there's some like semi-finals athletes that view themselves as professional, like they're, you know, it's their job to go and train and try and make the games and stuff. But then it's like, right, if you go below the top maybe 6 or 7 on each leaderboard, you're probably into people who, if sponsors pulled out, they're fucked, like financially ruined, because they're not like technically not professional athletes, because they're not earning enough from the sport to make a living from the sport. If you go, you know, like Jeff wins the games, that sets him up for a couple of years. Pat wins Rogue or podiums at Rogue, that sets him up for a couple of years. You know, like that, you have those kind of jumps or whatever on the financial graph. But like, I guess it's hard to say, one, what's a professional athlete in CrossFit? Two, how many of them are there? And then I think a lot of it will come to fruition with this World Fitness Project. We'll see how many professional athletes are there, how feasible is it to pay the athletes to compete rather than reward them for competition, which is kind of the model we have in CrossFit now. Have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, well, like if we like just to answer the question, they say there's going to be 20 like pro cards. So there's 20 professional athletes and everybody else is challenging for those spots. And like, that's the thing. I think for me, professional athlete is a loose term in the sense of like, are you making a living from what you're doing? Right? Like at most people that go to the Olympics, or like Olympics are an amateur sport. You don't get paid to go to the Olympics. You don't win any money there. Like, yes, you get rewards for your countries and things like that if you medal. But I mean, that's not your job, quote unquote, even though it is, because they have to train 20 hours. It's an amateur sport. So like in CrossFit, how many people actually like get paid to train and do that? And it's the same in tennis. Like there's a top 200 list, top 50, top 30 are like professional in the sense that they're making money either from competitions, from sponsors, from something. Like, I don't know how low that goes. And I don't think it's as, and that's where I'm saying, like, we can't look at team sports because there's a whole structure there that you get hired by the team and like all of that. Like on the individual sports, like how deep does it usually go within that sport? So I'm not saying like there should be 500 professional CrossFit athletes. No, there's probably going to be like, 20 and 20, 25 that can make a living doing that. But in 2050, there might be 50 athletes. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where it's going. But like right now, what can the ecosystem support? It's that. But like in terms of professionalizing, it's like, well, why? Like all the boxes are different. Cool. Yeah. Like my CrossFit gym is different from your CrossFit gym. But why can't we have like a structured field of play where you're saying you need 25 feet in this direction with the rig here, with a rope, with a GHD, which whatever, and then give gyms the time that if you want to provide this environment and it's like a sanction, like this is the space, I'm respecting all the metrics that you give me. And if you want to compete and go to semis, regionals, whatever, call it whatever you want, you need to compete in this space. Not every gym is going to have the ability or the desire to have and create that space, but the ones that do and the ones that can, okay, now we all have the same freaking angle on our camera. Yeah. And now we can do like Rogue had done with in 2020, like building everything and like the media feed and all of that. Like you could do that now for the open and everybody can compete all over the world because they would all have the same pattern and the same floor plan. I'm not forcing any box to do it. I'm not saying people should or have to or whatever, but it's like, well, for the time that I have Jeff, and if I need to move my rig to, be to that standard, great. And then the day that he stopped competing, I can like move it. Right. But for that time, it's like, that's how you need to set up your gym. Like every tennis floor plan is the same. Every basketball court is the same. Like, why can't we have that in CrossFit? What does it take away from the sport or the test or the event or the workout if we could have like something standardized? It would make it harder for some gyms, but not everybody has to do it because not everybody's going to have that athlete that is going to want to make it there.
Are you referencing like online semifinals more so with that?
Well, yeah, for online, like now we have the online semifinals and we know we're all starting in the open. Like that doesn't seem to change. So if we're saying 50 years down the road, we're still like the CrossFit game season still starts with the open, which would be great. Like whatever. Well, the people who are looking to go to the next step, should they not have all the same floor plan? Because it's all the same at semis. It's all the same at the games. It's all the same at in-person comps. Why can't we make it all the same for the open? Because of how the sport evolved and how the gyms are organized. But again, how many of those people would we, there's 12 gyms in the world that we need to like potentially reconfigure. Like Jeff is competing next year. If you force me to do that, yeah, I'm going to have to do it. But like, again, how many gyms? So it's like, well, why can't we do that to professionalize the sport? Because we're not impacting the affiliates. We're impacting some affiliates that need to fulfill this requirement. Because if Carolyn Lambray, competing in the open, it doesn't matter how I do it. I'm not impacting the leaderboard for anyone. But if you want to compare the top to the top and make sure that you get that real 1%, shouldn't that real 1% or the top 50 have the same field of play? Like, it's like, can we have ideas? You can shoot them down. Like, I'm fine. If it's not that, can it be something else? But it's like, if this is the model that we want to keep going and like keep reinforcing, I think that there's ways of making sure that we can all keep participating if that's what we want to do in terms of a community, but that we can still serve the athletes better and not have judging issue with online no reps. Like, what's the standard? Online review or my judging call in person? Like, let's ask this question. Like, we have people who get their season terminated because of online judging. Fair or not fair? Like, we can debate that all day. Fine, but can we have a solution? Can we have like a solution for that? And, you know, what I just proposed, would it help? Potentially yes, potentially no. I don't know. But like, we keep like just pushing through and like keep going in this direction. And it's like, we're not stopping and like assessing and trying to make things better. And it's always reactive. Oh, next year we'll do better. Oh, next year we'll have a fix for this. Like, maybe we just need to take a break.
Well, like not do the open.
Well, not do the open, but like, Jaguar's not selling cars next year or something. Like, aren't they they're putting their production on hold? Like, why do we have to keep going? Like, why can't we stop, figure something out in terms of like, how do we want to organize this, and then stick to it for like 5 years? Can we, like, why do we have to keep going? It would suck because like, well, I'm not making, like, Jeff wouldn't have the opportunity to compete. And I'm talking about like WFU. I'm just like if we just look at the CrossFit game season, right? And it's like, well, we can keep being reactive, or we can like stop, put a pin in it, and like decide where we want to take this. Like, every year, like Jeff, 2019, all the national champions. 2020, nobody had control over that. Fine, COVID. 2021, they cut to 20. 2022, they cut to 30. So like, there's always something. Like, that's just at the games. Where are semis? It's never in the same location. We have to travel all over. I'm not saying I don't want it to be online, but like, can we decide where it's going to be for 4 years?
I gather like the issue there with the semifinals and stuff is like, I think on paper, I mean, Syndicate are probably and Torian are probably the exception to this. But I think on paper, it's like, cool, we're a CrossFit semifinal. Great. And then they do it and they're like, wow, we hemorrhaged money.
Yeah, well, and again,
we don't want to do it next year. Because like the issue is, I mean, you talk about the, you know, like professional and the sport and stuff, but like nobody fucking went to Carson. Like, nobody was there. They were playing to an empty stadium.
Yeah.
And, you know, like that's the issue, is that like, it's fine to say, you know, oh, we need this, that, and the other, but like, as harsh as it sounds, okay, I'd be upset because I really like watching the sport. But like, if CrossFit, the sport, just vanished, like you start thinking like, well, what would actually change? Like, would it affect the affiliates? Would it affect coaches? If they still ran the open, but it just stopped at the open? It's just like, there's your leaderboard, and it just stopped. Yeah. It's like, what? The only people impacted would be the only people impacted would be the athletes and the coach, you know, like, and the agents and stuff who are going on the season. Yeah. Like,
and that's another thing. Like, I obviously I'm talking about the athletes, but like the whole ecosystem, like, you can't expect, let's say, the semifinals, like the people that host them, to just like run into deficit year after year. Like, that's not healthy. That's not viable. That's not good for anybody, the sport, individuals, like all of that. So it's like, and we don't seem to have a solution for that. So like, oh, we're just going to run another year deficit and like run ourselves ragged and like all these things. Like, can we find a model, like take the time to like think about it?
If you do not support HQ, everything professional is dead in 5 years. No spin-off provides. I think that's the wariness I have about the World Fitness Project, is that like I sort of feel like we've been here before. Like that when Grid started, they had all these big names attached. It was like, guys, this is the next, like we're going to the moon, like this guy. And then it's like, right, now it's having, like it's on its comeback trail or whatever now at the minute, but like it's just been dead for years. And I think that's my apprehension about this World Fitness Project, is it's like, I worry that they're laying track in front of themselves. And they're just like, okay, yeah, like cool, we'll do this, and then it just keeps going. And then like, what happens if it doesn't work? Or what happens if the athletes get burned by it? Or if they're just like, it was a bit too quick.
I mean, I think like that's a risk that I mean, it's like love. Like, are you willing to get burned? Like, you're going to have to take a risk at some point, and it might work out and it might not. People probably didn't think that Grid would survive, and I guess it's still here. Like, when was Grid started?
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of Lazarus to it. Like, it kind of died and came back. But yeah, it's like,
but so it came back because I guess there was like interest and like all of that. I think for me, because I've seen like the comments of like, oh, if like the games die, like CrossFit, the sport or whatever, like CrossFit, the methodology, like if affiliates, like all of that. To me, it feels a little bit like it's up to us to keep it alive. Meaning Jesus died 2,000 years ago. Like Christianity survived, right? Like we had the founder, he laid the tracks, we have the values. Now we either live them or we don't. Like we either stay Christian or you don't, or like whatever religion you espouse to, like that's fine. But that's what, to me, CrossFit is. We have all the answers. It's in the book. We have everything. If we keep doing it, and if athletes want to keep competing, then go watch them, whether it's at the games, WFP, Grid League. Like if you like that type of sport, same thing. Like I'll watch the hockey. I'm not watching basketball, like for whatever reason, right? Like maybe eventually I will, but like if you really enjoy it, then yes, keep watching and it will survive. It's our responsibility individually to stay in or remove ourselves, again, based on everybody's values and what they believe is right, for them. But I don't think that it would die, because I do think that people want to keep doing this. Like, and it's not in HQ's hands, it's in ours. Because if nobody, like, even if the games happen next year, if there are no fans, HQ can keep doing the games and they can keep like doing the open, doing semis, hosting the games. If no fans are there, doesn't matter if they keep continuing. Like we all have to show up. So like who has the power? It's I don't want it to be like a power struggle. Like we have it. If we don't show up, like, we have the upper hand. That's not it. Like we have to work together, but it's not just up to them. It's up to us. Like we also have a voice, because it's not their sport. It's our sport. Like they say the community, and they mentioned the community at the games this year. We are the community. We are part of this. So are they, but it's a we.
When you think of all that stuff, then was there any kind of reluctance to pull out of the games then, when you're, like when you're talking about the showing up and the we and the community and stuff? Was that the main pushback that you have when you were having the conversations in text about, like, I mean, I know you kind of say it was largely down to Jeff, like that, because he's obviously the one taking the floor and stuff, but like, was that the kind of the devil's advocate line then of like, oh, well, if we do that, what are we saying if we do it? As in, like, is it going to be interpreted a certain way, or are we taking a stance if we withdraw? You know what I mean?
I think that the way Jeff and we did it, and I hope that's how it came across. It was a personal choice. It wasn't a stance on XYZ. Yeah. That is what was right for him in the moment. And we weren't trying to make a stance pull anybody like, oh, you should not compete, you should not take the floor and things like that. Like we were in the warm-up area Friday morning, like after everything was announced, after the ceremony and stuff. And like people were having a hard time deciding if they were going to be on the floor, not be on the floor and stuff. And like, you know, Jeff stayed out of it. I had a lot of like personal conversations with people one-on-one, like with group. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I can tell you what we did, and that's our decision. And that is not there to influence your decision. You are going to have to live with it. So like decide what you want to do and why you want to do it. If you want to take the floor, not move for a minute. If you want to take the floor and then not do the next event. If you don't want to take the floor, and like it's all based on what you think is right for you in the moment. And like nobody had any time to digest anything. Like trauma takes 24 hours. So hopefully that's how it came across. Cause like that, it wasn't to try and send a message. Like that wasn't the goal. And I think, and that's the same for the fans. Like you know, I read some of the articles, Morning Chalk Up and things like that after, and how people like reacted during the weekend. And some people stayed the whole weekend and watched the games, and some people left. And like everybody, I think, did what they thought was right for them. And that's, you know, what you should do. Like you have to do what is best for you and take the time to think about it and like reassess. And it's like, it's not because that's how you did it this time that is how you're going to do it next time. And that's something else too. It's like, well, you took this decision now, and maybe you would take a different decision because of how you're feeling after in the future. That's also valid. Like that's fine.
Do you think Jeff will do the Open then? And like, will he do the season, do you think? Or have you decided that yet? That's going to be a decision that he's going to take in terms of like, can we take a decision now? With what information? You have as much information about the CrossFit season as you do about the World Fitness Project, I guess.
Exactly. So like right now it's moot, but like for the Open, we don't know where the in-person semis are. We don't know, you know, how the online semis are going to function, right? In terms of like, let's say equipment, like setup, like all of that, fine. We don't know when or where the games are. We don't know what the cash prize is. And even like, I didn't realize it till like very recently, but last year, the cash prize wasn't confirmed until after semis. So all the athletes were going there on the assumption that the cash prize was going to be relatively the same. And so everybody's operating on fate. Would you sign up for next year's work contract without knowing like how much your employer is going to pay you? You're going to have faith in you. Like, yeah, okay. Like, it's just, but like everybody did, because like, we're also used to the unknown and unknowable, and we go through the motions, and like, we hope, and like everybody kind of goes in that direction. But is that how it should be?
Has he got a cutoff point for what the prize money would need to be? Like, is it like it has to be above X for me to do it?
He probably does. And it probably changes from day to day, depending on how his body is feeling. Like
he checks his bank balance and checks his joints. Yeah.
But yeah, like there's just like, and same thing like you were asking before, like, are people going to view this as something more than what it is, right? Like, is it because he's doing the games that like we agree with everything that, you know, the investigation and how CrossFit has handled it and this and that? And it's like, you know, we took a financial hit in 2024, and we took our decision not to compete. And like, that was obviously also part of, you know, the decision making of like, can we afford this? Can we not? And like, we looked at many, many different aspects of our lives and decided which values were going to win out in that moment. And it's like, well, 2025 is a different year. And, you know, I was talking to someone, like, we're super lucky at the gym. We have somebody that works for the Olympic Committee for Canada. And he was telling me a story where when the Olympics went to Beijing in 2008 in China, and the Olympic Committee had to like, they had to pause and kind of like think about how they were going to react, because a lot of people were saying you should boycott China and you should boycott the Olympics because of human rights and like blah, 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 and all this and that. And it's like, you're going to tell 200 or so athletes who have been spending all their time and energy, hopes and dream into like making it to the Olympics, to not go to China, to boycott, what are you going to change in your spending habits and your choices like day to day? Because it's easy to ask somebody to do something, but what are you going to do? And it's like, yeah.
Oh, as in if you're complaining that someone's going to the Olympics but using an iPhone, like that's the, yeah.
Yeah. Right? Like we can all complain, and we all know apparently like Amazon warehouse employees don't have the best condition. Probably bought something on Amazon in the last week. Right? Like it's things like that of like, again, like where's your moral compass? And like we all eventually, like we all have to go through our lives, and we all have to like make those choices. Like if I need something tomorrow morning and I can have it on Amazon, am I going to say, no, I'm not going to do that because I think Amazon workers need better conditions in the warehouse? Right? Like it's a choice. Like every time that we spend money, every time that we make a purchase, every time that we decide something, we're also like, did people stop buying Nike in the 90s when it was all like made in sweatshops somewhere in Asia? Did people stop?
You could just do what I do. I just don't think about it.
And this is where like you read all the comments, it's like, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and this is what it means and this is what it means. But like, if that is what it means, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. If that is what it means, then that is how you should be living your life, and therefore you should not be doing these things, right? Like you can't.
Have you been like, say since the games, have you been paying attention to like comment sections on Instagram and on articles and on YouTube videos and stuff? Have you been like getting
I'm not so much of a YouTube person. I like some of the articles. I mean, because we live it, like I used to consume a lot more CrossFit media stuff. Now that we live it, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I was there. I would say I've spent, yes, since the game, a lot of time in the comment section because, and obviously like some has to be taken with a grain of salt, but it can also be a platform to communicate, and like if you do it properly, to share ideas and see where people are at emotionally, mentally, like all of that. So like, yes, I have read comments because I think it gives insight into where people are, and I think that has evolved since the games.
I guess it just depends what comments you're reading though. As in like I've seen like say Barbell Spin and Morning Chalk Up will post the same, not the same article obviously, but the same story, we'll say the same like headline. And then if you read the Morning Chalk Up comments and then you go and read the Barbell Spin comments, they're tonally like totally different from each other. And there'll be much like sometimes I think it's that whoever comments first, or whatever the first say 5 comments are, whatever the most populist view is, that's just like regurgitated then throughout the rest of the comments on anywhere really. So I don't know, it's hard. It is really hard.
The same thing for any media.
Yeah,
right? Like,
it is really hard. Like, you start reading it and you're like, oh shit, everybody hates CrossFit. And then you go on to another thing, you're like, oh, nobody hates CrossFit here.
Yeah.
So it's just,
because you're also going to attract a type of reader and media consumer of like we have confirmation bias. Like social media has exacerbated that. Like you're going to have more of what you believe in, what you put out, because that confirmation, like we want to have the confirmation of what we believe. So you're going to consume certain media, and that's just going to spiral. And so like, I've also been careful of like trying to go to different sources. Cause like, yes, if I'm only reading Morning Chalk Up, or if I'm only listening to Hiller, or if I'm only doing one thing, well, of course I'm going to have confirmation bias. So, but that's where in the comment section, you have a little bit like you'll have proportionately more of what like that media source tends to project, but you will still have some comments of people who are going to be outside of the norm, and that is needed. Like, I don't agree with you, fine, but I want you to comment what you're commenting because that gives a different perspective, and we should have those different perspectives.
It's a hard time to be a populist, I think, because
that's the thing. As a community, we don't have to agree. Yeah. And I feel like we all had to believe in the same things at the games. We all have to sign up to the Open, or like it's gonna die, or we're not CrossFitters, or this or that. And it's like we can agree on certain things and we can disagree on certain things. We can still be a community. Like we don't all have to like eat the same thing.
Have you ever gone on Reddit?
No.
Man, it's
No,
fucking gnarly.
I don't think I understand how it works. I think no.
Oh, it's basically just like a message board. But
I
like,
know, yeah, I can't follow this. No.
I made a mistake on, I don't know what it was, Saturday or Friday or Saturday. And I was like, I was looking at something else on Reddit and I was like, I'll search my name. A fucking bad idea. It's like, there's one person said, oh, it's when I did the drunk CrossFit game season and like, you know, said like what was going to happen basically. And someone commented and said, oh, making light of Lazar's death, which I don't know how they got to there. And then it was like, doesn't surprise me at all. I met him once and he was a complete asshole. And I was like, what? It's like, at worst, I'd maybe be disinterested when I meet someone. So I replied and I said, like, when did we meet? And then I realized, like, fuck, that comment was like 4 months ago. And now I look like I'm doing exactly what I'm doing and searching my own name on Reddit. But yeah, no, I don't think they'll ever reply. But what was the other thing I was going to ask you? Where is Wonderland? Are you at Wonderland now or at your house now?
Yeah. No, Wonderland.
Okay. And how far away do you live from Wonderland? Is Wonderland in like an industrial type area or where is it?
All industrial. I mean, yes and no. It's gentrified a lot in the last like 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we're like 12-minute walk. Like I'm really, really lucky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how often do you coach then? Do you coach like a lot or are you have you like stepped back a bit from that? Have you got like a big team of coaches?
No, we have a medium-sized team, and then like I do a lot of the programming, I do a lot of the admin stuff, like just the managing. So like I coach as much as that will allow me, and then like vacation and things like that. And then like when we go to compete, then the team obviously like takes more hours, so it goes up and down throughout the year. Like I'm still coaching.
You were in Italy after Rogue, weren't you?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was nice. Walk around.
Yeah, I'm looking at your Instagram. That's how I remembered Italy.
Yeah.
And Jeff, I remember Jeff is a big gelato fan, is he? That was the
we got some good affogato too. We didn't post that much while we were there.
You went with,
there's like that one picture.
And you went with them. You toured around with the Hinshaws.
Yeah. We were with Hinshaw and Heidi. That was like they showed us all.
You must be really close then, as well as just. So it's more than just a coaching relationship then, as in
I really enjoy spending time with them and like, yeah. Hinshaw and I will nerd out on like programming stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
Really like they're great people. Like we travel also, like traveling with people can be tricky because like people like to travel a certain way, so like we just like to travel the same way, so it's very nice.
And so Jeff does Zone and does like, I know he kind of dips in and out of .com and stuff, and then you know you program stuff from Hinshaw, I'm sure program stuff from him as well. Is he because I think the last time he hasn't been on the show in fucking ages. I think the last time he was on the show, it was either maybe it's just after he won the games. I can't remember. But we were talking and he had been training a lot on his own because it had been like lockdown and all that shit. Like, and he was basically like going to the gym and training on his own, or like that was his whole thing. Like, do you train with him? Do you have someone like, does Benoit visit and train with him, or does he just train his own most of the time?
Benoit's 3 hours away. So like when they can meet up, but it's not very often. The gentleman that you see next to me with the green shirt, Victor, is the one that will train the most consistently. Yeah, this guy. He's getting me ecstatic. He's like, never wants to be shown. He's like Jeff's main training partner, but like Jeff has his programming and he kind of organizes his day based on like, oh, today I feel like starting with this, or I haven't started with like a cardio piece or a strength piece in a while, or like a CrossFit workout. So like he'll mix things up. So depending on what he does and when and things like that, like sometimes I hop in, but that's more rare because like I'm either coaching or like need to take care of the gym, like business stuff. And so it's a little bit harder for me. So Victor usually, either it's Victor or any other coach at the gym. Like, I mean, anybody can like hop into a workout with Jeff. Like that's fine.
Is he a coach at the gym or a member or what then?
Victor?
Yeah.
All of the above. Yeah, he coaches. His coach.
But he's obviously pretty fit if he's like,
Yeah.
as in if does he scale significantly from what Jeff is doing, or does he do as Jeff is doing?
Oh yeah, no, he like not anymore, but like back in the day when when he started training with Jeff, like for a while he like did everything and it crushed him.
I'd say
He does not have the same genetic as Jeff, so like he's learned to like back off and listen to his body and things like that. So, but yeah, he doesn't have the same weights and lifts and all of that as Jeff either. So just Jeff in the background.
Hi, Jeff.
Here, you can bring these ones. Someone's coming over to try some tier shoes.
Nice.
For sizing.
What are we talking about there, Victor? So I've spoken to Jeff a couple. He's like, Jeff is really quiet. Like we're at the SoCal team briefing thing, everybody else was like constantly talking and saying we should do this and I want to do that and blah blah. And Jeff essentially said nothing like the whole way through. And then, like, is he always like that? Is he always like? I kind of have this image of Jeff in my head as almost like a robot that you can just tell him to go and do things, and he'll just go and do things. Like you tell him you're going to do this, and you're going to do this with Victor, and then you're going to go in the cold plunge, and then you're going to go in the sauna, and then we're going to go back out and do that. And he's just like, okay, and then just go.
No, he's not a robot. He's opinionated, and he's witty. I
enjoy his company. I'm not saying he's boring.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy his company, but he just seems very like quiet, and he'll just go do what he needs to do and not like veer too much left or right.
Yeah. Especially in SoCal, like they had been talking a lot already, like texting and like figuring things for workouts and stuff like that. So I think by the time they got in person, like if Jeff thought there was something that he needed to say, he would have said it. And otherwise, like he'll just stay quiet type of thing. Like if he really believed in something or like something should have been done differently, like he would have voiced his opinion. But otherwise he's like, yeah, he can go with the flow type of thing. Probably why he was very happy Pat was captain. Who's to talk way more. But yeah, no, it's I think it depends. It's also nice because then when he does speak, then people tend to listen. Like the less you speak, the more people listen. So I think it's also that, like, yeah, he's just quiet and stuff. And then like when he needs to say something, he'll say it. And his one-liners are always good. So
I think, because I had heard of, I'm just thinking of Victor again. I had heard of Victor at the game. Was it the games last year or something? He was like shouting numbers, or he was giving Jeff like from the crowd. He was like telling like what other people were lifting and stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Jeff cannot spot me in a crowd, but we'll spot Victor, which is great. We also don't sit in the same spot. But the best way, so Victor usually comes with us on competition, and the best way to describe his role is, in the F1 when they have all the pit stop strategies and all the strategies of A, B, C, no, we're going to this, we might do that. That's Victor's role. So he's the strategist behind, because like he can watch the other heats and then report. And because he trains with Jeff and like knows the programming, like knows everything, he knows how to adjust things on the fly. So like right before Jeff will take the floor, I'll get like final notes from Victor of like, this is the pace you should hold, or like you should cut this up, or like this is where like people are having issues, like if that's information that Jeff needs to know. And then like that allows him to just that's where he turns into a robot, and then Jeff steps on the floor, executes the plan, and like we're good and we move on.
Was he always, or were you and Jeff always accepting of that input, or was there a period of time where Victor had to prove himself as not just like spouting shit, saying like, hey, Hopper did this, maybe you should do that too?
No, no, it was very organic. Just the way it happened. And like, because even like, let's say like during the open, like testing different strategies for Jeff of like we would calculate things to the minute and like to the second of like, okay, there's 45 thrusters are 1.8 seconds. There's this movement there, 2.2 seconds. Transition times are like 3 seconds. How much rest? Like we know the scores are around this, like where can we take the rest? Where should you accelerate? How should you break it up? Like all these things. So like we work together to optimize and maximize Jeff's workout. So once we got to like live competitions, it's like it's easy to take his recommendations and see.
How do you separate, like, say, the gym, training, coaching, like, because you own the business together as well and all that kind of stuff, so everything's very like meshed together. Like, do you separate, like, when you go home, do you just not talk about CrossFit or not talk about, or like, say, like, do you like socialize with members outside the gym and with coaches, like with Victor and others outside the gym, or do you like, no, like that, like we'll that's work and we'll leave work and we'll just like, you know, the two of us will go and do something?
Time. Yeah, it's changed over time because, like, you know, when we got to the games at first, like, yeah, we were living and breathing, like, more me because I was really like passionate about everything and like reading everything and consuming the media and like all of that. I think, like, again, like as we've evolved and we're 6 years in now and things like that. In terms of like doing things with members, like we have like community stuff, like we do with the members and things like that. Like we're part of the community. Just had our holiday party on Saturday afternoon and stuff. Like he was there. Like we spend time with them. We've developed friendships, but like at the same time, we don't have the same, like he does 3-1. So like if he's off on a Wednesday and, you know, wants to do something and everybody's at work 9 to 5, like
yeah.
a little bit hard. So like it's things like that of just like how our life is organized right now. And it's like, well, we'll see when he stops competing and when we have more flexibility.
Was it hard, say, after the games and stuff, not to just be always talking about CrossFit and not to be always talking about, oh, what do you think is going to happen? And, oh, what should we do? And like when you're away from like, obviously when you go to the gym, you're going to have people asking you about stuff because that's just the nature of people. They want to show they're interested and they're also curious. But then if you're talking about it all day at work and then you go home and then, you know, you might be just sitting watching something. You're like, hey, what do you think is going to happen with, you know, like it's kind of hard to avoid those conversations when you both care about it.
Yeah. It's different. It's different things. Like, first of all, everybody at the gym, like I said, like people are excited about their open, not the CrossFit game season. Some people have been at the gym way longer and have like when Jeff used to do classes in 2018, like we have members who are still members and like used to do classes with Jeff, used to get coached by Jeff, saw him like win the CrossFit games. So, like it's a very different dynamic. Most of the members now, they come to the gym because they want to train. It takes like 3 to 6 months. And then people are like, oh, wait. Like I've been on Reddit or like wherever they found the information. Yeah. Like, oh, like you guys won. Oh, like Jeff, like when you said he was a professional athlete, like, oh, like he makes money off of this. We're like, yes. Like people end up understanding, but like people come to Wonderland because they want to improve their health and it's about them, which is how I want it to be. Like you're not coming to the gym thinking you're going to train with Jeff and like, I'm going to crush you with workouts and like volume and like whatever. No, you're coming to the gym because you want to improve your eating habits and improve your fitness and like get your health and like all these things. So like, that's great. So if we're sharing, like if I share a story about something that happened to the gym, like it's about CrossFit, but it's about the gym. Like we can talk about it. And same thing, like if people, like when we came back from the games, like there's very few people because very few people like knew what it meant to us and for us. So like, and we'll like, I'll answer any questions. Like, that's fine. That's a different conversation with a member. But yeah, it's very fluid. Like it's not like a hard rule. We're getting home, can't talk about CrossFit. It's 8 p.m. Yeah. Like, no, if we need to like talk about
watershed,
something. Yeah. And like, same thing, like I program like in Spouts. So like sometimes like I'm programming, I'm like, I need an answer. Like, so he'll answer me and I can keep programming and things like that. So we try to keep it as fluid as possible. And I think it's like, yeah, we can tell if like either one of us is like CrossFitted out.
Was it I don't know if this is accurate now. Were you on the PFA like advisory or so? Was it you and Kotler and someone else were kind of involved? I don't know if you're actually on the board or kind of helping the board like last year.
Helping the PFA since the beginning.
Inception,
like any way that I can. You can't be on the board if you're not an athlete.
Okay.
So it's more that. And then at the games, like they asked like the coaches, the men's, the teams, the women, like that was a whole other thing, but that wasn't the PFA.
Are you still helping them now? Are you still advising now or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're, especially since Brent, won't be competing and stuff, like obviously he's more hands-on, and I think they'll be like, again, it's hard to say anything with the little information that we have. So like, I think they're just gonna do like everybody else and like wait for more information, and they're gonna be there for the athletes. It's just like and I haven't even been there that long. Like when you talk to Cutler, like he's been there since God knows when. Like it was awesome in 2020 when we were like, because we were in front of Kira Pierce and them, and he was telling me stories. I'm like I was a baby. Like it was my second games, and he's like, "This is my 10th year." Like I don't even remember how many he had done, but it's like
great Cutler impression.
It's not a Cutler impression, but I think that. And I was mentioning this like last year when I did a podcast at Wadapalooza, the athletes, because they have gone through this experience and they're the only ones who have lived the games and the experience. Like even I don't live the games like Jeff lives the game. I live the games as a coach, right? Like they have an experience and input and knowledge that they could share, like valuable because they've lived it. I have something else that I can bring as a coach from my perspective as a coach. And it's like, if we took everybody's knowledge and experience, like how much better could we make this? Right? Like, and I think that like, that's one of the reasons why I still do classes at my affiliate, because I want to see what it feels like to take a class at Wonderland and be coached by my coaches. Like, that's why I eat my own medicine. Like I program and I do the workouts that I program. And then I laugh at everyone. I'm like, who decided to do that today? It's great. But so like, if you're, yeah, like hopefully if you're programming for Wadapalooza, like you've done the workouts yourself. And we all know this, like it's not doing Fran in 4.5 minutes and doing Fran in 2.5 minutes. We have both done Fran. And even though we were going like Fran cough, 100%, pedal to the metal, it is still not the same. The games athlete are on another level. Like you can put me in a Formula 1 car, you can put me in any, like I'm not going to drive the same. Like it's just like it's not the same. So recognizing that everybody has something valuable to contribute to the ecosystem, and that whole then like, yeah.
When you saw that CrossFit and the CAC or CAC or whatever, I don't like saying CAC, the CAC, when they had come up with that, were you like, oh, that's good? Or were you like, motherfuckers, like we're like, what would you not?
Oh, the athlete council, whatever that CrossFit is doing?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I should bite my tongue. If it works, great. And this is where, like, I will give you the benefit of the doubt, but we have done this in the past. In 2020, they had it, and the diversity, inclusivity, whatever thing, like they also had that. Where is that now? And like, and this is where I'm saying, like, people, like, same thing. If CrossFit isn't there, HQ isn't there, like things are going to die, whatever. If Castro isn't there, like the games won't be the games. Maybe yes, maybe no. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like you've never lived the CrossFit games as an athlete under Castro, Boz, whoever. So like, how can you, like, what are you basing this comment, this opinion on?
Me.
I know, right?
Well, is it
good? Is it bad? Like, hopefully it works. Like, change is change. Like,
wouldn't it be fair for me to judge it? Wouldn't it be fair for me to judge it not like as a spectator or wouldn't it be fair for you to judge it as a coach and not as an athlete? You know what I mean? Like, as in, if you look at, like, I follow football, like soccer, and like I constantly judge my team. And I constantly judge the decisions of the manager, and I constantly judge the decisions of the officials, even though I've never officiated a game or played a match or managed a team.
I mean, I judged the gymnast at the Olympics because I should have done that. But like, that's fine. But like, hopefully it creates the change that the athletes, and this is like, I got the email as an affiliate. It's like, oh, there's affiliate owners, there's masters, teens, whatever, adaptive. There's like CrossFit Games athletes. And again, it's like, you have all this input, and that's great. Like, feedback is great. We can all give you feedback, but until we can all agree on who the season is for, then what am I contributing? Like, what do you want my input to be about?
Do you think it's for anyone now, or is it just kind of gray? Like, do you think if you asked Castro, would he have an answer? Or if you asked, do you think if you asked Castro or Dawn, would they have an answer if you said, who is the season for?
I would hope that they have an answer. And I think that we've heard it in the past that the Open, like, they wanted to make it for the affiliates, right? And they wanted to make it more accessible. They wanted to make it for the affiliates and all of that. And it's like honestly, the people that probably have helped the affiliates the most are the Buttery Bros. Like, the media that they created back in the day, that is the reason why people saw the games and came to CrossFit Wonderland. Like, I've had people who are like, I watched the documentary on Netflix. Like, I watched it on iTunes. Like, I got into it. Like, I want to come do CrossFit. It wasn't like, it was that media. Like, cool, the athletes, like, you need the athletes to participate, but it's like, we're all fighting for this piece of the pie or like whatever. And it's like, if I have to say thank you to anyone, it's them. Like, that's how we have, like, that's how Netflix and the F1 got more fans. Like, it's the media that gets produced. So, like, is the Open, should it be for the affiliate? If we decide yes, then that means certain things. It means we have, does it need to be more accessible? Like, how long have you been doing the Open? My first Open, it was only RX. Right? And if you had the weight and if you had the movements, great. And otherwise, it forced you to just like work harder for next year. And I was like, I'm not saying there shouldn't be a foundation and there shouldn't be a scale or whatever. It's just like, that's one of the reasons why those things were developed. It was to help affiliates, not against them. But do we need to have like workouts with weights that are going to prove that the next segment is the right segment to send on to semis, games, whatever? Or do we just want to make it accessible? Like, what does that programming look like if we say it's for affiliates or the general population or the games athlete? Because you don't, honestly, if you program properly, you don't need to program deadlifts at 405. You don't need to program power cleans at 315 to prove someone's fitness. That's not the point. That's not what I'm saying. It is like, heavier is not harder. That's not it. But I think there's things that happen because we will gear them towards certain segments of our ecosystem.
Could it be malleable? Like, could it be, you know, that the Open is for affiliates and then we move on and semifinals are for whoever and then we move on and the games are for the top four? You know, could it change with each stage of the season? As in, like, the Open is for affiliates and, you know.
But then does that mean Jeff doesn't compete?
No, like, he does it, but he's not the focus of it. You know what I mean? That he's like, he's there and he's participating, but it's not for him. It's not his stage. It's not his, like, it's a stepping stone for him to the next part, which is more about him, which is a stepping stone for the last part, which is potentially all about him. Like, would that be reasonable or not?
I'm trying to see where this happens in any other sport. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess no other sport has this model.
And I'm not saying that we need to be like other sports. Like, that's, we can be our own thing. That's fine. I'm just trying to see, like, it's like every beginning of the tennis season, everybody that plays tennis in the world can like show up and, you know, Federer has to be there. Like, I don't know who's in Yannick or whatever his.
I guess it's probably like Olympic qualifiers, wouldn't it be? Like, it's probably like you do a local. But
even the Olympic qualifiers, like, not everybody's invited.
No, but isn't there? I don't really know how it works, to be honest. But isn't there, like, you have to do a certain amount of competitions in the year in order to go for an Olympic qualification? And if you don't do those,
in weightlifting. So I guess it depends on the sport. I think in weightlifting they need to do like a couple, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying we should change the Open and Jeff should get like a free card, whoever that top person, like the top people are, and they get a buy for like, oh, they just have to be at semis or whatever. I'm just saying, what do we want? and then like just live with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Like, do we want more people? Like, the reason some people choose to put all their time and energy into developing their athletic skill is because they're going to sign potentially a contract that is going to be life-changing. And I'm talking more team sports, right? North America, like there's like hockey, basketball, football, like things like that. Like you can sacrifice a lot because you know that that is going to come back to you if you get there, right? And not everybody does and things like that. But there's way more teams, there's way more players. Like those opportunities have grown over time because the sport has grown. So is that what we want? Do we want to give more opportunities for people to make a living out of this sport? And if the answer is yes, or the answer is no, then that is going to structure things differently. If we want to keep it the same, like we've had 40 athletes compete at the games. Do we want 20? Do we want 30? Like next year, it's supposed to be 30.
Minimum.
That question has kind of like been answered a little bit, right? Like, is it because, you know, they need to reduce the cash prize? So those 10 extra people, like, well, now it's more like, you know, less money to split or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that change was made, but I don't have the answer. I just enjoy asking the questions.
Yeah. That's what I do as well.
It's like I love doing the open, no matter how, like I said, like depending on when you started doing the open, you've lived a very different open. Like I had people last year who like had 1 month of CrossFit experience and, you know, were able to do foundations and participate with everybody else in the gym. And that was great. So I'm not arguing against that or the accessibility of that or bring the whole community together or whatever. I'm just saying like how we structure things is going to impact everyone that participates. That's it.
Has Jeff been contacted by the WFP or like is he considering that? Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
So yes. Do you think
I would hope so.
Would he do both, do you think?
I can't talk for Jeff.
Yeah.
But like as a coach looking at it from the outside, like no matter what athlete that is, I think it, like if you're asking me like should an athlete, Jeff or not Jeff, do the game season and the WFP, it's going to depend on all the dates. Right? Like
I mean, the thing about
saying, like, we don't know when the in-person semifinals are going to be. We know when the online semi is, May 1st to the 4th. Cool. How many workouts? I don't know. What are the windows of submission? I don't know. Like all these things are unknown. We don't know when the games are. Is it going to be end of July, beginning of August? So when is that WFP competition?
Yeah.
Like it's so theoretically, would it be doable? And then should it be done? Like that will again depend on like your expectations. Are you trying to win the most money because like if you average out everything, you're going to earn more? Or do you say yes or no to one or the other because like you're going to put all your eggs in one basket and like hope to make a lot of money there? Or is it just like closer to where you live and therefore you're reducing a lot of the cost of travel and, you know, whatever and things like that? Like, I don't know. Can the athletes do it? I mean, like Pat has been competing for years and doing a bunch of competition and way more than a lot of other athletes and have had success. So is it possible? I think so. Now, is everybody Pat?
I mean, I guess the thing with the WFP as well is it depends on your personal integrity or your goals, because like theoretically Jeff could take whatever $60,000-$70,000 and just show up and come last at 3 events and still get his minimum payout. You know, like, so it depends on what your goals are. Is it like, yeah, I'm going to make bank, or is it like, I really want to win this thing?
I mean,
Jeff doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would.
I don't know on the women's side. I can talk on the men's side. Like everybody, like nobody is showing up just to show up.
Yeah.
Like
although we haven't had this model before, though. That's the thing. So will people show up just to show up now when it's like, hey, you get a minimum, just collect your paycheck on the way out. Even if you come last, it doesn't matter. You don't have to come first. You just have to, you've signed your contract. do these 3 events, get your money. If you win, you get more. If you don't, you still get this amount. Will athletes then be like, whoa, I mean, that's pretty low risk. I can really focus on the games, but I can also do this other thing where I'm just like going through the motions.
True. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to decide where you're going to put the most energy because, again, we don't have the dates, we don't have the logistics, we don't have the locations. For example, somebody is in both, because like you might have to sign up at the beginning not knowing a lot of information. So let's say you will play this theoretical game of like, I'm signing up for both. And then all of a sudden you do the online semis, you're doing WFU, but you do the online semis. And then the cash prize for the games is announced at $500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might change people's, like, I'm not saying the games are going to have a cash prize.
Seems unlikely.
Very unlikely.
We'll go with it.
Exactly. Go with me with it. Like, they're trying to save the games and like bring the athletes and whatever. Cause like for them, like, again, it's a paycheck. Like a lot of people have sacrificed a lot and they're looking for that eventual future payout. Like, I understand being in that situation. Like, it was rough for a few years for us. So yes, things might change, and you might, like for coaches, like, I'm going to have to program your taper differently, and we might need to adjust things if you are doing both. But to show up and just coast, I don't know a lot. Like, as a child, like the challengers, we don't know who's going to challenge and like participate there and like potentially just get a paycheck out of it. I don't know. They probably want to make more money. But out of the 20 people that would be signed on the men's side, that would just show up, that don't want to do well, that don't want to prove themselves to themselves. Like, no, it's not like, oh, I want to prove it to everybody else. It's like, no, like people, like athletes want to see what they can do. And that means like competing against the other best and like doing your best and giving your best. And like, so it might look a little bit different if you're, like I said, like I've had to taper you differently and things like that. And that's to be taken with a grain of salt. And that'll be for the analysts to kind of decide and decipher what they're doing. But I don't think anybody would sign up and just think that they're coasting and like, just, going to the games.
Yeah, we have a lot of unknowns. I guess.
But we're used to it because we're all CrossFitters.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we're fine.
Well, thanks for coming on, Caroline. I know you don't do a lot of these, and I don't think you've done a live one before, so I appreciate you taking the punt, taking the risk. Congrats on your affiliate, your level 4, all the rest, Jeff's success and your success. It's great. Hopefully we'll see him on the leaderboard in February and whatever events after that.
Whether
I don't know.
On the leaderboard or not, we're all CrossFitters. I feel like there's a lot of division right now about what people are going to do and not do, and you know what? Take it 1 year at a time. Decide what you want to do next year. Life is fluid. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, so we'll see. Yeah. We'll do the workouts. You can do the workouts.
That's only $20.
Uh-huh.
As I said, it's only $20. It won't break the bank. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks everyone for watching. If you would like to go, I put it in the live chat earlier on. I'll put it in the comments after this. Whatever you'd like to go and do that. You can vote for Caroline as Coach of the Year. You can vote for Jeff as Athlete of the Year, or neither. Whatever, I don't care. But if you just give me an accurate, broad base of people taking the survey, that'd be great. Caroline, thank you.
Thank you.
Back on what day is today? Monday. Be back on Wednesday around the whiteboard, and then on Friday. No, next Monday we're doing the end of year review show, so that'd be great. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, everybody.